with a golden crown. Tom Gulley's ready, no time to slow down. His voice a river, smooth and deep. He's got the stories that make the city weep. Walking streets where legends grow. Everywhere he stops, they already know. Tom Gulley goes to town. Oh, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Oh yeah, woo yeah, woo yeah. Barbershop chatter, a wave and a grin. Coffee shop wisdom, let the tales begin. The baker hands him a loaf with a smile. Tom, you're the man who makes life worthwhile. A mic in his hand, the airwaves ignite. He spins a story, he turns on the light. Listeners gather from far and wide. Tom Gulley's words, a city's pride. Tom, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town. Tom Gulley goes to town. Oh, he lights it up, never lets it down. Tom Gulley goes to town. He's the man they cheer, the talk of the town.
When the daylight's fading and the world feels wrong, there's a voice on the airwaves, steady and strong. From the heart of the internet's wild frontier, Tom Gulley's talking, pull up a chair. He's got stories, he's got takes, he's got calls rolling in. From the tales of the weird to the shape of the spin. If you're tired of the noise and the nonsense online, there's a seat in the Gulley verse. Come take your time. The show must go on. The show must go on. With the mic burning bright through the dusk to the dawn. Yeah, whatever goes wrong, the Tom Gulley Show lives on. The show must go on. He's the radio outlaw with a charm so sly, a storyteller's cadence and a wink in his eye. From the ghosts in the attic to the news of the day, Tom breaks it all down in his signature way. He's the king of the ramble, the lord of the yarn. He'll take you from evening straight through the dawn. With callers so strange you'd swear they're a bit, but Tom never wavers, he just rolls with it. The show must go on. The show must go on. With the mic burning bright through the dusk to the dawn. Yeah, whatever goes wrong, the Tom Gulley Show lives on. The show must go on. So grab your Dr. Pepper and settle in tight. Tom's firing up the airwaves tonight. Whether chaos or calm, he keeps steering the ship with a quip or a riff and indiscreet, turned around and saw some spiders dancing on their feet. All their legs were shiny gold, and the rhythm pure heat. He thought, hold on baby, these little fellas groove kinda crazy, and the whole room lit like a disco dream. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked, but with disco hearts, baby, nothing got whacked. Skittering, jittering, never losing the tact. Tom Gulley smiling, feeling all the impact. Oh, honey, no one got sacked on the night. Oh, the night, the night, the night the spiders attacked. Christian Slater walks in with his Hollywood stride, leather jacket shimmering, grin open wide. He saw those tiny dancers moving side to side. Didn't take a minute for the man to join the ride. Every spider in the room kept the groove amplified. The lights flickered bright like a Motown stage, silky harmonies floating like we'd turn a new page. Spiders tapping rhythm like a miniature band. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked, but with disco hearts, baby, nothing got whacked. Skittering, jittering, never losing the tact. Groove so smooth it bordered on abstract. Oh, honey, no one got sacked on the night, the night, the night the spiders attacked. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked. Silver legs shimmering in every move exact. Glittering, gliding, keeping all the rhythm packed. Groove so heavy, every heartbeat sinking stack. Oh, honey, the whole world clapped. For the night, the night, the night the spiders attacked.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking on a special Sunday Tom Gulley Show? Tonight, let me tell you about Mystery Science Theater 3000, a subject near and dear to my heart. Another Turkey Day marathon. I've been watching them all weekend. The good ones. I don't watch the crappy ones. And that was another absolute, as they say, banger from Leon Kennedy in honor of Christian Slater, who is extremely, and I mean extremely, obsessed with spiders. Well-known Hollywood actor who for some reason inhabits our chat room and for some other reason is obsessed with spiders. Before we take another step, we'd like to thank Rumpled Trenchcoat for his $5 super chat. Tom Gulley and MST3K on a lazy Sunday. Let's go. I can't put the chats up because I'm in OBS. Sorry. I'm in OBS. I'm OBSing. Normally I don't include the O. As we get going on tonight, I would love to hear your favorite MST3K episodes and maybe your favorite formulations, you know. There's been several different cast things, you know, and I'll try not to make fun of the ones that you like if I don't like them. We do have some chats. Christian Slater said he got kicked off Facebook for posting revenge spider pics. Sorry to hear that. And Rumpled Trenchcoat, as I mentioned, is here. He says, I'm going to get some popcorn and settle in. The chef is here. Always good to see the chef. And we played the song The Night the Spiders Attacked, which sounds like an MSTie 3K show, kind of, doesn't it? Doesn't it? A little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And he said, as the kids say, this song slaps. Many emojis were placed on screen. Rumple Trenchcoat said he's getting some popcorn and settling in. People saying hi to Chef. We do have the most cheerful chat room on the internet, as verified by independent sources. Yeah. Jared's here. Says, great tune, Tom. Rumple Trenchcoat, that's a darn good song. Christian says this has got to be the best all-time song. I'm honored to be immortalized in a Tom Gulley classic song. There you go. Rumple Trenchcoat says, I'm curious if OBS works better for you than StreamYard. It can't be any worse, can it? Let me fix this thing here real quick. That might help right there. And MSTie was great back in the day. Well, we'll get to that. I got to agree with you. I got some strong feelings on this because I was MSTie 3K from the start. I don't know what's going on with the hair today. It doesn't really matter. But first, do us a favor: like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. All those absolutely free things you can do that help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. And then we do have the super chats. Rumple Trenchcoat has already very generously gifted $5. And we do have the gifting of the free memberships. And we've got the PayPal where you give the most, I get the most. Google gets nothing. Sometimes I don't announce your donation until the next day. And then you can go to the TomGulleyShow.com where we have 250 audio podcasts, independent of the 430 live streaming shows on our YouTube page, as well as our merchandise store. And I'm pretty sure there's some sort of deal going on there. I don't know for sure. It was 50% off a couple days ago. I don't know what it's doing now. Let's see here. Rumple Trenchcoat says, I love the original Joel and the Bots, but also love Mike and the Bots. I feel they have their own unique vibes, with Joel being a fatherly figure and Mike being more a big brother vibe. I couldn't agree more. I had a long talk with, a Discord chat. Incidentally, we're starting our own Discord. Yeehaw. I don't know why nobody watches the show. Who would go to the Discord? But I thought it might be cool after the show. People that don't want to be on the show could go to the Discord and we could chat there. I don't know. I'm trying anything. We're throwing anything at the wall over here, folks. Anyway, I had a long talk, chat, messaging with Jesse X, also known as Jesse PS of Pot Awful, who, by the way, I'd like to mention, is on a generational run, the likes of which I don't think the world has ever seen. And he is a fan of Mike. I am a fan of Mike, but my favorite is by far the Joel episodes, and we'll get into all that in just a second. Jared says, I go to the Discord for sure. You will be allowed in my Discord. Some will not. Anybody here will be. We need a place for all the Gulley heads to assemble. I couldn't agree more. We also need a place that I'm guaranteed not to be kicked out of. Let me tell you about Mystery Science Theater 3000. Most people know it as that. It's also for the ravenous fans known as MSTie 3K. Joel is the best episodes for sure, 100%, says Jared. I agree. I don't know how anybody can have any other opinion but that. I really don't. That's just me. That is just me. Christian Slater says, what's a Discord? It's a place where they keep spiders. Anyway. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, the basic premise of the show is this. It's very simple. Let me get you a pretty picture to look at here real quick, because I have a lot of pictures. That's one good thing about OBS, is that I can, put a lot of pictures up. This picture kind of is not very high resolution, but I'm putting it up anyway. The basic premise is this. A human test subject, and we'll just go with this original cast and say Joel Robinson. It would later be Mike Nelson, and then the new guy, who I'll get to in a minute, is imprisoned aboard the spacecraft, which is known as the Satellite of Love, right? And he's imprisoned there by mad scientists, who they call the Mads. And they're forced to watch a series of bad movies. The Mads are trying to find a movie so bad it will drive them insane. So, to try to keep his sanity all alone up on this Satellite of Love, Joel built sentient robots, the bots. The bots. Would you like to see the bots? I have the bots. There we go. I'll show you the bots. He built these sentient robots from parts aboard the Satellite of Love. And they just remain there on the Satellite of Love. And most importantly, he can't really fight off when the movies begin or when the movies end, because he used those special parts to make his robot friends. Gypsy on the left. Tom Servo. Crow in the middle. There we go. Now, Gypsy is now known as GPC for reasons I don't know and I don't care. And Gypsy's in charge of satellite operations, okay? So the Gypsy is kind of not that articulate. She's busy taking care of important things. And there's another robot called Cambot who just records the experiments, but they can talk to it and it'll do things. Crow and Servo join whoever, the test subject is in the satellite's theater. And to keep from going crazy, they comment and wisecrack during the movie, and that's known as riffing. Various intervals during the movie, the hosts leave the theater and return to the bridge of the satellite to perform sketches, host segments that often make fun of the film being watched, okay? So that format has remained the same throughout the series. The episodes are about 90 minutes long, excluding commercials, of course. And they begin with an introductory segment in which the human host and the bots interact with the Mads before they're sent to the movie, usually with, "We've got movie sign!" And they have to run through the various doors and get to the theater. Yes. There's some other things, an invention exchange, which is kind of controversial amongst the fans. The Mads show their inventions. Joel shows his inventions. There you go. So they sit in the row of movie theater seats, and they're shown in silhouette. That was a kind of a thing that Joel called Shadowrama. Shadowrama. I guess neither here nor there. But that's what he called it. Oops, wrong card. There we go. Sometimes they use the shadows to shadow puppet. Sometimes they'll put up color bars or things on there. So there you go. Yeah. Rocket number 9 has a camera to show events happening outside the satellite. The hex field view screen would be used to communicate with other characters that might stop by the Satellite of Love from the ship's bridge. At the end of each sketch, movie sign is triggered again, and the characters must enter the theater. During the Joel Hodgson era, which is my personal favorite, the final sketch aboard the satellite often included the reading of fan mail from the MSTie 3K Info fan club, but those decreased during the Mike Nelson era, and were entirely dropped once the show was moved to Sci-Fi. The final sketch of an episode typically ends with the Mads, with the lead Mad asking their lackey to push the button. Push the button, Frank, to end the transmission and go to the credits. After the credits, a short humorous clip from the featured film or one of the shorts that they play is replayed as a stinger to end the episode, like "Buzz Off, Kid" from Mitchell, which I love. Yes. All right. So this fella here, Joel Hodgson, is credited with the creation of the show, right? By far. He is known as the guy that started the whole thing. And I guess, I don't know if all of you guys know this, but, well, it's here in the chat. Let's just go into the chat for a second. Jared says, I refuse to watch The New Guy. Me too, Jared. A lot of the Turkey Day Marathon had The New Guy. I won't watch him. I also won't watch any episode with Pearl. Just won't do it. Rumple Trenchcoat says, I know Joel was a prop comic prior to MSTie 3K, so I imagine the Invention Exchange was a continuation of that. Couldn't agree with you more. Rumple Trenchcoat. And that gets into the fact that prior to the show, Hodgson was an up-and-coming comedian from Minneapolis, having moved to Los Angeles, and he made appearances on Late Night with David Letterman a whole bunch of times and Saturday Night Live. Oh, yeah. He was doing his stand-up comedy act on Saturday Night Live. All right? And his act was really funny. I mean, but it was all prop comedy. He would have a casserole dish with macaroni and cheese in it, and he would hold it up so everybody could see what was in the dish and go, by day, an innocent-looking casserole, but by night, and he would press a button, and the casserole dish would be the center portion of a machine gun. Agent J, and which I think is hilarious, really funny. But all sorts of prop comedy like that. And Brandon Tartikoff, who I will do a show on, believe me, had invited him to be on an NBC sitcom starring with Michael J. Fox. But Joel felt the material was not funny, and he said no, and the sitcom never happened anyway. Which to me is the beginning, the seeds of Joel. Joel's got very high standards for comedy. If something's not funny or it's not going the way, he just goes, forget it. And he became more and more dissatisfied with the Hollywood attitudes when they tried to double their offer, acquiring what he called a healthy disrespect for the industry. He moved back to St. Paul, Minneapolis, St. Paul, taking a job in a T-shirt printing factory so he could have the time to conceive of new comedy ideas when he was bored. He was kind of like on the satellite of Minneapolis, St. Paul, I guess. One of these ideas was the beginnings of MSTie 3K, a show to make fun of movies that would also allow him to showcase this prop comedy style. He's the one that referred to the jokes as riffs, although I think people had used that term for music and some other things. He attributes the term to the Simpsons writer and stand-up comedian Dana Gould, who is also hilarious. In terms of the movie selection, he recalled that his college roommate had a copy of the Golden Turkey Awards, which, by the way, is an amazingly good book, and wondered why no one had made any program about these adorable, weird movies that were in that book, like Plan 9 from Outer Space and all that stuff. He says part of the idea from MSTie 3K came from the illustration for the song I've Seen that movie too, in the liner notes from Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road album, showing silhouettes of a couple in a theater watching Gone with the Wind. He also likened the show's setting to the idea of a pirate radio station broadcasting from space. And it doesn't take a genius, if you've seen the 1972 film Silent Running, to know that it was probably the biggest direct influence on the show's concept. That show, that movie, featured Bruce Dern, and Bruce Dern had these little robots that were his friends that did things on this sort of satellite that he was in. He's on a spaceship, basically, which has the last forest on Earth, and his companions were these little robot drones. Yeah. He wanted the feel of the show to be homemade, and there you go. He'd made dozens of robots from random parts that he sold to friends and others that he knew that he could make part of the show. So, anyway, I haven't changed my picture here in a while. Well, we're talking about Joel. I guess it's appropriate. Why don't we go back to the dumb guy? There we go. Let's go back to the dumb guy for a second. Anyway, theater shots are taped in Shadowrama. The seats were black painted foam core. Okay, a board that's just cut out to look like seats and painted black. And the human host would have to wear black clothing while the robot puppets were painted black, and the screen they watched was a white Luma key, different than a chrome key, but it's the same kind of deal, to create these silhouettes. And so then Joel and the other guys would follow the movie and the script through television monitors located to the front of them, so it looked like they were in a theater. The door sequence, which is very important. I used to tape the Turkey Day marathons on VHS, and the door sequences were just the right length for me to skim forward through the commercials and get to the next riffing section, if you will. Joel took that inspiration from the Mickey Mouse Club, and he says that the similarity to Get Smart was completely coincidental. So, there you go. Yeah. The show's theme song, the love theme from Mystery Science Theater 3000, was written by Joel Hodgson and Kevin Weinstein, which helps cement some of the broader narrative elements of the show, such as the Mads and Joel being part of the experiment. When it first began, and if you've seen the early TV station shows, they had to explain all that stuff at the start of the show, and it was really laborious. So they created a song that would tell the whole story. In the not too distant future, next Sunday AD, there lived a guy named Joel, not too different from you and me. He worked at Gizmonic Institute, just a regular guy in a red jumpsuit. He had a good job cleaning up the place, but his bosses didn't like him, so they shot him into space. We'll send him cheesy movies, the worst we can find. La, la, la. The whole thing. He could tell the story, kind of like Gilligan's Island, or the old TV shows told the whole story in the song of the show. So the song was composed by Charlie Erickson with some help from Joel Hodgson in the style of Devo, The Replacements, and the Rivieras. Particularly their song California Sun. We'll be out there having fun in the warm California sun. And Joel sang the song. So the initial shows used foam letters to make the show's title, but they later made this giant foam ball that is in the show card for today's show. Did I use I don't think I made just the foam ball, but it's there. They made that thing, which is probably worth $1 million now. Yeah. They felt they needed a 3D rather than like a 2D image. And there you go. So anyway, Joel Hodgson approached Jim Mallon, who at the time was the production manager of KTMA, which was a low-budget local Minneapolis area independent television station. Look, they used to have these things called independent television stations. Now, they don't have them anymore. If there's any, I don't know of any. Now, we do have some here in Dallas, but they're usually religious, or they just don't have them anymore. It's either the CW, or if it's not that, broadcast stations, it's Antenna TV, or it's Me TV, or it's Grit TV. There's all these networky things that they put on them. So there's no... I worked at an independent television station, TTV4, and all we had were reruns and old movies and occasional college sports, and we did have the Hoosier Lottery show. That was a big deal. And we had a news department, but man, was it bare bones. It was brutal. So he was at one of these, and he went into it with this idea. I got this show, it's riffing movies, robots, and so Mallon agrees to help produce a pilot episode. And he hires local area comedians J. Elvis Weinstein, eventually going by Josh Weinstein, but there was another writer named Josh Weinstein, so but whatever. And Trace Ballou to develop the pilot show, who was a local comedian. By September of 1988, Hodgson, Mallon, and Weinstein and Ballou shot a 30-minute pilot episode using segments from the 1968 science fiction film The Green Slime, which is a terrible movie. The robots in the set were built by Hodgson in an all-nighter. Joel watched the movie by himself and was aided during the host segments by his robots, Crow T Robot to be precise, Beeper, who would later become Tom Servo, and Gypsy, who was played by Weinstein. Joel used the narrative that his character named Joel Hodgson, not yet using his character name of Joel Robinson, had built the satellite of love and launched himself into space. Camera work was done by Kevin Murphy, who would later become Tom Servo forever, who was employed by KTMA. Murphy also created the first doorway sequence and theater seat design, and those initial episodes were recorded in the now defunct Paragon Cable Studios and Customer Service Center in Hopkins, Minnesota. On review, Hodgson found that of the robots, Beeper's design was not working well and tried a quick modification by replacing its toy gumball head, replacing its head with the toy gumball thing that we all know and love, creating the basis of Tom Servo. All right. So Mallon, that production manager, met with KTMA station manager Donald O'Connor, no relation, the very next month and managed to get signed up for 13 episodes. Now remember, this is an independent television station. They're showing monster movies. They're showing westerns. They're showing I Love Lucy, Leave It to Beaver, all that stuff. They need any programming they can get. The production of these shows was generally done on a 24-hour cycle, starting with Mallon offering a few films from KTMA's library for the writers to select from. And luckily, and this is true of the station I worked at, they had an avalanche of terrible movies. Awful movies. We had this library with just awful stuff in it. Just the worst. Let's go to our chat here real quickly. A nerdy lower energy carrot top, says Rumble Trenchcoat. That's true. I'm really surprised that Get Smart wasn't a factor in that beginning. It seemed like such a nod to the show. I know, but he's saying no, it just sort of turned out that way. Terry Nee said they had TVs then. Yes, they did. Jared says, I'd love to see the pilot. Well, there are some on YouTube, history of MST3K, that have some clips from that pilot on them. So check it out. Yeah, they have those. Oh my God, I just made a big mistake here on my computer. Yeah, and it's, yeah. So the riffing in those early episodes was totally ad-libbed during the taping, using notes made kind of while they were viewing it, but really kind of ad-libbed. Episodes are noted for their low number of riffs, sometimes 15 minutes with nothing, okay? The show was a little different from the pilot, okay? It was lit differently, and the robots now were joining Joel in the theater. There was a new doorway countdown sequence. The puppeteers worked personalities into their robots. Crow was considered like a robotic Groucho Marx. Tom Servo was like a morning DJ, smarmy morning DJ. And Gypsy was modeled after Malin's mother, who had a heart of gold but would become disoriented when confronted with a difficult task. The development of the show's theme song would lead to establishing elements for the show's ongoing premise, you know. And Joel was now Joel Robertson. So Mystery Science Theater 3000 premiered on KTMA at 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, 1988, which perhaps is the inspiration for all the Turkey Day marathons. And by the way, Thanksgiving, when I first saw these, I was living, I think, in Springfield, Missouri, and I had no family nearby, so I was at home. I bought a lot of food and all that stuff. I was having a great Thanksgiving meal, but I didn't have anything to do. I didn't really want to watch football, and I happened upon, and I've been in love with the Turkey Day Marathon ever since. Anyway, the first episode was Invaders from the Deep, followed by Revenge of the Mysterians from Mars at 8 p.m., so they did two back-to-back. The choice of running the premiere on Thanksgiving was happenstance. Absolutely happenstance. The station said, this show's ready to go, so let's put it on. And so initially, they didn't know how people were responding to this show until Malin set up a phone line for viewers to call in. The response was so great that those 13 episodes were extended to 21, with the show running to May of 1989. Hodgson and Malin negotiated to secure rights for the show themselves, creating Best Brains Incorporated, agreeing to split ownership of the idea equally. And during this time, the fan club was set up, and the show held its first live show at Scott Hansen's Comedy Gallery in Minneapolis to a crowd of over 600. So this thing kind of had a cult following, or ravenous following right from the start, right? Right from the get-go. Some people would say from the jump. From the jump. By the way, there's Crow. And this guy, I think, is one of my favorites. Is Trace Ballou. Looks in this photo, which is obviously from a con, nothing like Clayton Forrester, the Mad Doctor, and also the voice of Crow T. Robot. There is Servo, Tom Servo, who's also hilarious. They're all hilarious. And there's Gypsy. Yes. And there's Gypsy. Making up, of course, some of the things I made. I know what that is. Anyway, there's the original cast. Well, kind of the original cast. We'll talk about TV's Frank here in a second. By the way, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all the free things that help us with the algorithm. That really helps us out. We have super chats and memberships. Rumple Trench Coat's already been cool and offered us $5. And $5 is $5, you know what I'm saying? And so, merch store at tomgullyshow.com. Comedy Channel. The Comedy Channel offered Best Brains $35,000 per episode, but allowed Best Brains to retain the show's rights. Here's the thing. I believe the budget for the show at the TV station was $100. And I think Joel got 45 and somebody else got 25 or 35. I mean, it was just brutally low budget. Best Brains was also able to keep the production local to Minnesota instead of the network's desire to film in New York or L.A., because that would have cost 4 times more per episode, according to Hodgson. Best Brains had an office and a warehouse for filming in Eden Prairie. The budget was expanded, but still limited, but they were, with that money, able to hire more writers, including Mike Nelson, Mary Jo Pell, who played Pearl, and who I just can't, I mean, I'm sure she's a very talented lady, but Pearl was just nails on a chalkboard to me. And yes, TV's Frank Conniff. I love TV's Frank Conniff. They retained the characters of Dr. Forrester, Trace Ballou, and Dr. Erdhart Weinstein from KTMA. And, the show began its national run shortly after the Comedy Channel went on the air in 1989. MST3K was considered the Comedy Channel's signature program, okay? They got great press, even though that particular channel had very limited availability nationwide. After the second season, the Comedy Channel and their rival, called Ha, with an exclamation point, merged to become CTV, the Comedy Network, which they later just changed to Comedy Central. And during that time, MST3K became the Merger's signature series. And they went from 13 to 24 episodes a year, right? And to take advantage of all that, they started running epic Turkey Day 30-hour marathons of MST3K episode in Thanksgiving of 1991. I was there for the very first one. I have video cassettes because they ran them all together. I have VHS tapes that you could set for like 2-hour, 6-hour, or 12-hour recording, or something like that. And I set it for one of the longer ones and recorded all of Turkey Day that year. Yes. They also wanted to do that because the movies themselves were turkeys. And that tradition would continue through the rest of their time at Comedy Central. The show didn't get huge numbers compared to other programs that might have been on Comedy Central, like reruns of Saturday Night Live. But the dedicated fans and, that hardcore audience kept the show on the network. By the way, Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, was produced during the last half of Comedy Central and had just a limited theatrical release. The fans liked it, but it was a financial just failure. I don't particularly like the movie myself, but your mileage may vary. I don't know. Well, look, the chat has gone completely non-existent. That's fabulous. Am I still on here? Am I still on? Anyway, there's TV's Frank. Let's get the dummy back on the screen. And there's the dummy right there. Oh, I think we have a chat. The movie was very disappointing, to be honest, says Rumple Trenchcoat. You're dead on there. It was, I just don't know that you can make a movie about it. Maybe. Jared said movie sucked. It did. I don't know that you can make a movie about it. I really, honest to God, don't. So I don't. I just don't. Jared says, you are live. You are watching live. One of the good things about going to cable is that made, when they were at the TV station, they only had the movies that were at the TV station. Now that they're on cable, that network could provide them a much wider variety of films to riff on. And one of the members of the staff would watch the movies completely, generally making sure that movie would have plenty of chances for them to make fun of it throughout. All right. And TV's Frank Conniff has said, we used to have to watch about 20 movies front to back to get one for the show. And this is legendary on the show. And I'm mentioning it for two reasons. The first reason, this is legendary on the show. That's the first reason. The second reason is this is maybe my favorite episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And that is Side Hackers. God, I love that episode. Chili peppers burn my gut. I love Side Hackers. I just love it to death. I may watch it. I've watched it so many times. It's not even funny. The reason that it was so important for somebody to watch the movie front to back was, in the case of the Side Hackers, they only skimmed the first part of the movie, and it had, let's just see here. It had Ross Hagen, and it had Diane McBain, who was actually a pretty well-known actress at the time. Ross Hagen was on Doctari and a lot of shows. He was a pretty durable TV and movie actor. And then it also had Michael Pataki in it, who's just, I'm going to tell you something. He just chews up scenery in every movie he's in. He's in Rocky IV as like the Russian guy that starts hassling Ivan Drago when right at the corner. He's always over the top. Always over the top. And so side hacking is this weird sport. I don't even know if they do it anymore, where a guy hangs on the side of a motorcycle and like uses his weight to help the driver go faster in the corners and stuff. It's so stupid, but it was an actual sport. So they skimmed the first part of Side Hackers and said, we need to use this. And only later discovered it contained a scene where the Diane McBain's character is brutally raped and murdered. They went ahead and did the movie, but they cut out that whole part and had to explain the sudden absence of that character being gone, which is actually kind of funny. But after that, they very carefully scrutinized these other films. Once one was selected and they got the rights, they just completed the episode with that film. Getting the rights was handled by the cable networks. Some of that licensing, and I can speak to this having worked at an independent television station, required buying the film rights in packages with a bad movie included in a catalog of otherwise good movies, making negotiations strange because the network really only wanted the bad movie. Other times the rights to the film were poorly documented, and it required a lot of legwork to find out who owned the copyright so they could even put it on the air. But I can tell you this, when I was working for the independent television station, they would have these packages called Friday Night Free-for-All. And there'd be 2 or 3 good movies in the package and 10 absolutely unnoteworthy ones. That's the way they sold them. That is the way they sold them. Side Hackers, if you haven't seen it. Incidentally, I'm going to show some more of my favorites. I encourage you to put your favorites in the chat. Let's see if we have any more chat. Rumple Trenchcoat says, I feel like Pearl was like King Joffrey on Game of Thrones. She did such a good job of being annoying and despicable that she actually was hard to watch. Plus, it's hard to beat Trace's Dr. Forrester. It's so hard to beat Dr. Forrester. It really is. But she was just so... I watched an episode today where she and Mike switched places. So she's in the theater riffing. Even worse than as a host. Now, she might have been a great writer on the show, too, by the way, because she was a writer. But especially because he could be abused for a laugh, and they didn't do that with Pearl. Yeah, she... Now, whereas they had ad-libbed the riffs on KTMA, the cable network, because they had so many writers, they were scripted ahead of time by the writers. An average episode, 90 minutes of running time, would contain more than 600 riffs. That's why we love it, sometimes up to 800. And the whole writing staff would watch the movie together several times through, giving off-the-cuff quips and jokes. Quips. Sorry, didn't mean that. Quips and jokes as the film went along. And kind of saying this is where additional material could be helpful. You know, maybe there's a dead spot in the movie or whatever. The best jokes were polished and scripted for this show. So... those riffs, by the way, were also developed to keep in line with all the characters. The writers tried to maintain respect for the films and avoid being too negative about them. They didn't want to sound like jerks, okay? But they didn't want to ridicule the films. A lot of people think that's what they were doing, but Joel says to consider what they're doing as a variety show built on the back of a movie. I think they would make fun of certain... They almost created their own reality for the movie. For instance, I probably could get to it in a second, but I'll give you a peek. Ring of Terror, which I don't think I put in my top, but it is one of my top favorite movies, is a movie about college kids, one of which has got to do something really scary, and everybody thinks he's unscarable, this one guy. But it's set on a college campus in the 50s. Everybody there looks like they're 40 years old. And so they take that and they just run with it. All right. So anyway, now at Comedy Central, compared to the TV station where it was a 24-hour production cycle, Comedy Central, 5 to 9 days once the movie was selected and they got the rights. The first few days were used for watching the movie and scripting the riffs and the live action segments. And then the subsequent ones were used to start construction of any props or sets that they would need while the writers were working on the script. Full dress rehearsal would be held, which is surprising to me. Making sure the segments and props worked fine and messing with the script here and there. The host segments would then be taped on one day and the theater segments on the next day. The final day was used to review the completed work and correct any major flaws they caught before considering the whole thing done. Live scenes used only practical special effects, and there was very little editing, post-editing, once the taping was completed. Very little. Very, very little. Let's see here. Buddy Lee is here. Mr. Buddy Lee, excuse me. Says the best MSTie 3K movie is Danger, Death Ray, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Manos was great. I'm a Torgo fan. I think Manos, The Hands of Fate is a really great episode of MST3K. I don't think it's as great as people make it out to be, but I think it's great. Okay? Rumpel Trenchcoat agrees. I do have to give props to Danger Death Ray too, Mr. Buddy Lee. It is good. It is good. I'll give you my favorites in a second. Weinstein left the show after the first Comedy Channel season, mostly disagreeing with Joel about moving forward using scripted rather than ad-lib jokes. His replacement was Kevin Murphy, now the voice of Tom Servo, which he would do for quite some time, portraying the bot as a cultured individual, while Dr. Earhart was replaced with TV's Frank, which I think was a major upgrade. Nothing against Joel Weinstein, but Frank is just so perfect. Absolutely perfect. Joel here, sorry, clicked the wrong software. Joel here, come on, be good to daddy. Joel here decided to leave this series halfway through season 5 because he didn't like being on camera, and he had major disagreements with Jim Mallon, the producer, over creative control of the program. His insistence, Mallon's insistence, according to Joel, on producing a feature film version of the show led to his departure. And he gave up his rights to MST3K to Mallon. Just said, forget it. He later told an interviewer, "If I had the presence of my mind to try and work it out, I would rather have stayed because I didn't want to go. It just seemed like I needed to." Anyway, they held casting calls for a replacement for Joel on camera, but the crew found that none of the potential actors really fit the role, and instead, having reviewed a test run that Mike Nelson had done with the bots, the crew agreed that having Nelson, who had already appeared in several guest roles on the show, he was Torgo in one of the segments. He's also in, I think, my favorite episode. And he would replace Hodgson, and that would be the least jarring. The replacement of Joel by Mike would lead to the oft-jokingly Joel versus Mike flame war among fans, similar to the Kirk versus Picard in Star Trek fandom. Frank Conniff left the show after season 6, looking to get into TV writing for sitcoms in Hollywood. TV's Frank was soon replaced by Dr. Forrester's mother, Pearl, Mary Jo Pell. And that's when the whole thing started going downhill. Although Mike was still around, so it's still salvageable. But by 1996, Comedy Central had started creating an identity for its network, and with shows like The Daily Show, Win Ben Stein's Money, South Park, Dr. Katz. And so MST3K was really an oddity on the network, and they needed that programming space. Although the new leadership stated that MST3K helped put the network on the map and that its fans were passionate, they wanted to change things due to the show's lackluster and declining ratings, which, Joel had left, and now Trace had left, and Frank had left. So the network canceled MST3K after a 6-episode 7th season. So, anyway, let's get to Rebel Trenchcoat says TV's Frank was another great vibe change. Dr. Earhart and Forrester were peers, but TV's Frank was a real Igor. Yes. Mr. Buddy Lee says, I'm a Mike Nelson man, personally. A lot of people are. And I'm not mad at him. At all. There's nothing, it's perfectly valid to be a Mike Nelson guy. I don't know if it's as valid to be a fan of the last guy that we have on, with some other issues I have with some things. Now, the show staff continued doing things as long as they had the finances, right? There was a writing campaign, keep it alive. And all of that led to the Sci-Fi Channel to pick up the series, right? So Rod Perth, who was president of programming for USA Networks, of which the Sci-Fi Channel was a subsidiary, was a huge fan of the show and thought that sci-fi took itself too seriously, and this show is a great way of lightening up a lot of the stuff that the Sci-Fi Channel was doing. So most of the writing and production and everything else remained unchanged from the Comedy Central period. Before season 8 started, Trace Ballou wanted to leave the show, feeling that anything creative that would be produced by Best Brains would belong to Mallon, and he wanted to have more creative ownership himself to replace Dr. Forrester. 2 new sidekicks to Pearl were introduced, Professor Bobo and the Observer, also known as Brain Guy. In addition, Bill Corbett took over Crow's voice and puppetry, and Best Brain staffer Patrick Brantzig took over Gypsy in the middle of season 8. With this replacement, the series' original cast had been turned over. Now, as much as I like Mike and that era, when we got more Pearl and when the cast changed over completely, show didn't do that well. The more people that left from the original, the less well the show did. We have all the arguments we want about Joel versus Mike, but the truth of it is the show's biggest, bestest, most popularity was that original cast. MST3K ran for 3 more seasons on the Sci-Fi Channel. Best Brains was more limited by the network. The pool of films was smaller. They had to use science fiction films because it was Sci-Fi Channel. And the USA executives wanted to see a story arc, and they had a lot of demands on how the show would be produced. Conflicts between Best Brains and the network executives would lead to that cancellation. Peter Keepnews, writing for the New York Times, noted that the frequent cast changes as well as the poorer selection of films that he felt were more boring than bizarre in their execution made that original appeal go away. Another campaign to save the show was mounted, including several MST3K fans taking contributions for a full-page ad in the trade publication Variety, but it was unsuccessful. Season 10 finale, Danger, Diabolique, premiered on August 8, 1999, during which, in the show's narrative, Pearl Forrester accidentally sent the satellite of love out of orbit, with Mike and the bots escaping and taking up residence in an apartment near Milwaukee, where they continued riffing on movies. A lost episode produced earlier in the season but delayed due to a rights issue, Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonders, was the final season 10 episode of MST3K and the last of the original run. September 12th, 1999. Reruns continued to air on the Sci-Fi Channel for several years, ending with The Screaming Skull on January 31st, 2004. The shows later moved to off-network syndication. Yeah. And now we're just talking about fumes, right? We're really talking about fumes here, I think. Let me see. Mr. Buddy Lee says, new dude with the glasses blows. So does the chick on the reboots. Yeah. There's only so much of the, according to Rumple Trenchcoat, there's only so much of the heart of the original show you can lose before it loses its luster. Story arcs were such a dumb idea to force on a show that was designed for one-offs. It really was. It was dumb, stupid, dumb. So dumb. Dumbhead. Gives me a dummy ache. Anyway, starting in 2010, long time later, Joel had been trying to buy back MST3K, spurred on by fan appreciation of the cast and crew 25 years since the show's premiere, and the success of his cinematic Titanic project. And here's another sort of like tip of the hat to the problem, right? It's think about it. And the fact that the show might have been losing a little of its heart and soul. Think about this. That show, while it was still on, I mean, it spawned, what was it, the film club or something like that, riff tracks and cinematic Titanic. If MST3K was really, then that wouldn't have happened. Anyway, Joel thought this was great timing, and Netflix had picked up the original series, and there was success of crowdfunding by this time. He needed to reacquire the rights of the series, which were held by Malin and Best Brains. But by 2013, he was working closely with Shout Factory, the company handling the distribution of the home movie versions of MST3K. And he completed with negotiations with Malin to buy the rights for MST3K for a seven-figure sum in August of 2015, enabling a Kickstarter campaign to fund the revival to move forward. And he thought that was necessary so that this style and approach would be determined by fans rather than through a network. He could have gotten funding from a network, but then they'd have control. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Kickstarter was launched. They needed $2 million for the production of 3 episodes, with a goal of 12. So there you go. Each episode, Joel thought, would take about $250,000 to make, in addition to the 5-figure movie licensing rights. Campaign reached its base funding within a week. And so on the final day of the campaign, Joel and Shout ran a streaming telethon, which included appearances from the newly selected cast and crew and various celebrities that supported the revival to help exceed the target funding levels for those 12 episodes. Campaign ended December 12, 2015, with a total funding of $5,764,229 from 48,270 backers, with an additional $600,000 in backer add-ons, which allowed Joel to plan 2 more additional episodes, including a Christmas episode, bringing that total to 14. That Kickstarter became the largest one ever for film and video, surpassing the $5.7 million for the Veronica Mars film, but was ultimately surpassed in 2019 for some animated series. So, all right, now let me just talk about something that I'm not very happy about, and I don't care. Nobody's, in the world is looking to make sure I'm happy. But there was no reason for this. There really was. I guess Jonah Ray is a comedian. I do like that he's named Jonah Heston because it's such a tip of the hat to Charlton Heston. But, Joel had met this guy while recording an episode of the Nerdist podcast and thought he'd be a good fit. Crow and Tom Servo are 2 comedians, Hampton Yount and Baron Vaughn. I think they try too hard. Their voices are annoying to me and oftentimes too loud. Felicia Day plays Kinga Forrester, Clayton Forrester's daughter, and one of the new Mads, now operating out of a moon base known as Moon 13. Now, Felicia Day was on The Guild, which is a super nerdish show. It was very, very, very popular, and she was great in it. one of the last people to be cast, you see. And she was also on Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, and he thought that she would do a great job. Patton Oswalt plays her henchman, Max, or as his character prefers to be known, TV's son of TV's Frank. Joel had already planned to invite him, because he was a longtime friend and a self-professed MSTie 3K fan. Was a special guest writer for the revival, but decided during the Kickstarter he'd also be a good fit on camera. I personally, and I'm going to put myself on camera here, I don't dislike Patton Oswalt. I think Patton Oswalt is really probably very talented, and you could say that easily. There's things he's been in that I think he's been great. He did that movie where he was a big fan of his, but he's been awesome in a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. But there's also a part of Patton Oswalt that I am sick to death of, and that is his seeming need, like Kevin Smith, to be involved in, glom onto, anything that's already got a nerd or kind of a cult following, and B, kind of like I'm the gatekeeper of the hipster nerd viewpoint of everything. I did not think he was good on this revival. I cannot watch any of the episodes from it. That's not me and good old days syndrome. That's me wanting some really good show, and I don't think it was. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. I don't like it. I don't think the ideas are funny. I think it's kind of annoying. It's just they're trying too hard. Way too hard. There is an element of the obscure that was kind of lost. The part of the fun of the riffs is not just the humor of them. It's how smart are you? How many things do you know about? And if you don't know about them, you got to look them up and find out. You know what I mean? And this one is just sort of, I don't know. It's just kind of roasty, and don't like it. Don't like it. Yeah. Rebecca Handsome of the Second City took the role of Gypsy, as well as Cynthia, a clone of Pearl Foster, who assists Kinga, because we needed a clone of Pearl. No. We did not. Harmar Superstar leads the Skeleton Crew, a house band in Kinga's lair. Why is there a house band? I don't know. Mary Jo Pell, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy cameo in the revival, reprising their roles as Pearl, Brain Guy, and Professor Bobo, all of which I did not like. And I love Kevin Murphy. I don't think Bill Corbett was as good a Crow as Trace Ballou. A lot of people like him better. That's cool. But Brain Guy was as bad as it comes. I'm sorry. Joel opened up the show to the show any of the cast members to make cameo appearances or aid in the creative process. But Mike Nelson and Trace Ballou said they don't want to be involved with the revival. Smart men. Mike Nelson said, the brand does not belong to me, and I make and have made almost $0 off it since it stopped production in 1999. Conniff noted on his Twitter that Shout Factory would be cutting the former cast members in, financially at least, on the profits from the series. And that would cheese me off too. In addition, other cameos on the new episodes include Neil Patrick Harris, Jerry Seinfeld, Mark Hamill, Joss Weinstein initially stated he had no interest in returning to the show, but eventually reprised his role as Dr. Lawrence Earhart in the second season. Yes. I could get into the writing and recording of this particular version. I don't really want to. They've got some amazingly talented writers and guest writers and, Joel wanted to follow the pattern of what were the fan favorites. And he said there's about 30 episodes that he and the fans agreed were the best. And he wanted to use those as templates. They re-implemented the invention exchange, which some people love, some people hate. I understand why Joel likes it. And, if he's in charge, he should get what he wants. Yeah. So the revival went back to that sort of handcrafted look. Some other people didn't want to do it. Joel did. I think he should get what he wants. Anyway. They only ran that for 2 seasons. But in 2021, he launched another Kickstarter campaign to do more of the episodes. So that used most of the Netflix series cast. So, yeah. Already talked about the Turkey Day marathons. You can get episodes of this in home media, but there's so many episodes, and a lot of them are available on various streaming services or YouTube on the Mystery Science Theater page. Many of us have taped episodes, although I no longer have a VHS tape player. The show was syndicated for a while. We talked about the movie. There is a book. It was written in 1996, so it is not complete, but it was called The Amazing Colossal Episode Guide, written by many of the cast members with synopsis for every episode. But right now, we're on the internet. Just go to the fandom page. It's quite elaborate. There's actually a web posting from 2018 that ranks every episode. I don't think they do a very good job, by the way, but they rank every episode. Okay. Oh, look, it's Shaman Tard. Says, I care if you're happy, Tom. Is this is that really Shaman? Because if it is, there should be a Mystery Science Theater episode about him, or a movie about a guy who's been in and out of rehab countlessly, nonstop over the last couple of years, wrecked his car, causing a 4-car pileup, in and out of halfway house, currently working part-time at his job. He's on medication, but he's got plenty of advice for other people. Now that's a funny movie. There was recently a 3-hour and director's cut 4-hour movie about him being catfished by a woman that hates him and who is posing as somebody with, let's just say, some proclivities. He seems to think he's the smartest guy in the room. He recently did a bunch of shows that had no audio clips. In other words, he's shown a video. There's no audio on the video. He's laughing. He's reacting to them. He's the only one that can hear the audio. His whole audience can't. And you know what? Not one living soul bothered to tell him that this was happening, because people were more interested in laughing at him being a complete imbecile, reacting to audio that only he could hear. Now that's funny. And he wants to pray for people and give them advice, and pray for yourself. Give some advice to yourself. You just got your 30-day chip. Maybe you shouldn't be handing out advice to people who have a 62-year chip. Just saying. There's an episode of MST3K. Rumpled says, on paper, these all seem like good choices. In practice, well, again, disappointing. I agree with you, Rumpled. When you look at who they pick, you're like, whoa, that's going to be great. It just wasn't. The Raw Phone says, Patton is a great boyfriend. He's married. Terry Nee said, I'll say it. He's a feminine hygiene product. Turkatron here is Turkatron. Turkatron says, and comedy shaman refuses to take accountability for today. Oh yeah, when the audio wasn't working, he blamed OBS and he blamed the people in the chat. Sort of a substance, you never blame yourself. Don't ever blame yourself. If I didn't have sound up the beginning of this show when I was playing the songs, there's only one person to blame. This fella here. There have been live shows for MST3K over the years. 1989, there was a live riffing event in 1992. They went on a tour in 2017, 29 cities. Joel Hodgson and Jonah Ray toured as the 30th anniversary without any of the originals, which why do a 30th anniversary if you're not going to have the originals? 1996, during promotion for the film, Nelson and the Bots were interviewed in character on MTV and seen in silhouettes heckling footage from MTV News featuring the band Radiohead. Also that year, Hodgson was a featured guest on Cartoon Network Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which I worked on. In 1999, a video game magazine, PlayStation Underground, included a Best Brains produced MST3K short on one of their promotional discs. Nelson and the robot characters appeared in silhouettes in an episode of Cheap Seats, a TV series, which the Sklar brothers commented on clips of sporting events in manner similar to MST3K. In 2004, the show was listed as number 11 in a featured TV guide article, 25 Top Cult Shows Ever. So 3 years later, they rewrote the article and dropped it to 13th. 2007, the show was listed as one of Time Magazine's 100 best TV shows of all time. It was also chosen as one of the magazine's top 10 shows of 1990. In 2012, the show was listed as number 3 in Entertainment Weekly's 25 best cult TV shows from the past 25 years, with the comment that MST3K taught us that snarky commentary can be way more entertaining than the actual media. So I'm going to get into some reactions from people they actually parodied, which are pretty funny. But before I do that, can I get a drum roll, please? By the way, I'm going to play The Night the Spiders Attacked again for Christian Slater at the end of this whole spilkus. I don't know what your favorite episode... Well, it's some of your favorite episodes. Mr. Buddy Lee was kind enough to tell us his. However, I'm going to give you mine. These are in no particular order. Now, this is the one that fans vote for all the time. And it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. But I don't find it... It's probably, out of the hundreds, it's probably number 20 on my list. It's way up there, but it's not... I just don't think it's... I think it got voted number 1 a couple of times, and now everybody just... You know what I mean? It's like Citizen Kane. You kind of have to say that now. One of those deals. All right, Dan. Here we go. Rumble Trenchcoat says they had a cameo, I guess more of a nod, on The Simpsons when they showed up in a silhouette riffing on a movie in the background on a bar TV in Moe's Tavern. Terry Nee has the drum roll. Thank you, Terry. Okay, so Manos Hands of Fate always gets listed as, yippee-ki-yay. Here are the official Tom Gulley favorites. No, yes, Side Hackers. I already mentioned it. I could tell you almost every line from this. I've watched it a million times, and I just think it's absolutely hilarious. And it is available on one of the streaming services or I believe on YouTube. The MSTie3K page has lots of stuff, but I think if you have Roku TV or Google Chromecast, if you just look up the episode you want, you can probably find it. This one here, it's like I go back and forth between Side Hackers and this one as my absolute favorite. And that is Daddy-O. Oh my God, I laugh and I laugh and I laugh. I can't get enough of Daddy-O. And Mike Nelson, if you look at that sort of that scene in the upper left-hand corner with that thug, there's a scene in it where some guy's trying to get into a gym locker and the thug goes, "Hey buddy, how about you give me the key to that locker?" And Mike Nelson comes on as a guest through the hexagonal view screen. And he says, he keeps saying that one line over and over again. It's absolutely scream. But if you haven't seen Daddy-O, a lot of people have noted, there's a short on the front of it that's okay. But a lot of people have noted that a lot of MSTie3K episodes start off really funny and kind of tail off. Daddy-O is the opposite. It's kind of funny at the beginning, but as it goes along, it gets funnier and funnier and funnier because they sort of plant some seeds at the beginning that they keep making fun of. So Daddy-O, if you haven't seen it, oh my God, with Dick Contino. Killer Shrews is my favorite childhood movies, and they do a great job on the Killer Shrews, by the way. They really do. Or was it Giant Leeches? I don't know that they did Killer Shrews. Rumple Trenchcoat says, one of the funniest lines that still sticks with me is during the Beatniks, in which Tom Servo said, "It would be really embarrassing if a real beatnik showed up." Mr. Buddy Lee said, "The dude has really thick glasses." Yeah, it's actually a plot point. And they keep making fun of this like main evil guy who's fat, wanting butter. Get me some butter. It's really funny. I mentioned Ring of Terror, which is great, but it's not in my list. All right, now this is a movie that we've actually shown here. It's a public domain movie that we actually, it might be a members only on my YouTube page. And that is Teenagers from Outer Space. Oh my God, it is so funny. They do a great job with it. Absolutely great job with it. Here's one that actually did not, most of these are older movies that they parody. At least they were at the beginning. This one was only like 3 years old when it came out. And that was Robot Holocaust, with the girl that kept saying, Doc One. And the one girl's father was put into like a giant avocado, some pod with his head sticking out and his face painted green. I mean, it is absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And then finally, and this, by the way, has appeared on more Turkey Day marathons than any other movie. I think it was 7 times or something. And that is, of course, Mitchell. Buzz off, kid. Mitchell. Brute force with a badge. Good old Mitchell. Yeah. Good times. Good times. All right. So there's been people that have reacted to being parodied on MST3K. One of the more negative reactions was Sandy Frank. You guys remember Sandy Frank? The guy that owned the rights to all the Gamera films? Yes. Sandy Frank. Anyway, he mentioned that he was intensely displeased with the mockery directed at him. The crew once sang the Sandy Frank song, which said that Frank was the source of all our pain and thinks that people come from trees. Steven Spielberg won't return his calls and implied that he was too lazy to make his own films. Due to this, Sandy Frank reportedly refused to allow the shows to be rebroadcast once MST3K's rights ran out. That might be a rumor. Other rumors indicate that Gamera's film distribution rights prices increased beyond what Best Brains could afford as a result of the show's success. According to Shout Factory, the Japanese movie studio Kadokawa Pictures was so horrified with MST3K's treatment of 5 Gamera films, they refused to let them release episodes on home video. Yes. The Japanese take their Gamera films very seriously. Do not appreciate them being mocked, said a member of the Shout Factory. But eventually they were able to clear the episodes for a special 2011 release due to the rights being shifted from a Japanese company to another North American company that didn't really care. So there you go. Another person that had a problem with MST3K because of one of the shows, well, that would be Joe Don Baker. Kevin Murphy claims that Joe Don Baker wanted to beat up the writers of the show for their relentless riffing on Baker during Mitchell. Murphy later said he probably meant it in a joking manner, but Mike Nelson has said that he deliberately avoided encountering Baker while the two happened to be staying at the same hotel. Jeff Lieberman, the director of Squirm, was also quite angry at the MST3K treatment of his film. Director Rick Sloan was absolutely shocked, I tell you, at his treatment in the conclusion of Hobgoblins. And he was mercilessly mocked over the film's end credits. In a 2008 interview, he said, to clarify his remarks, "I laughed through the entire episode until the very end. I wasn't expecting the humor to suddenly be at my own expense. I was mortified when they dragged out the cardboard cutout and pretended to do an interview with me. I was caught off guard. I had never seen them rip apart any other director before on the show." However, he credits the success of the MST3K episode with inspiring him to make a sequel. 2009. There have been a number of people that were very positive about being riffed on. Robert Fiveson and Merle Schreibman, producers of Parts, the Clonus horror, said they were flattered to see their film on MST3K. Actor Miles O'Keefe, oh my God, Miles O'Keefe, legendarily playing Tarzan in the 1981 version, a huge failure, but star of the film Cave Dwellers, called Best Brains and personally requested a copy of the MST3K treatment of the film, saying he enjoyed their skewering of what he had considered to be a surreal experience. According to Hodgson, O'Keefe said his friends always heckled his performance in the film when it was on, and he appreciated the MST3K treatment. Rex Reason, the star of This Island Earth, made appearances at several MST3K events and credits MST3K with introducing the film to a new generation. This Island Earth is actually it's something else. The crew of Time Chasers held a party the night the MST3K treatment of their film aired, and while reactions were mixed, director David Giancola said, "Most of us were fans and knew what to expect. We roared with laughter and drank way too much. I had a blast, never laughed so hard in my life." Actor Adam West, star of the 60s version of Batman, which I think if you watch MST3K, you don't have to be told who Adam West is, but he co-starred in Zombie Nightmare, another film MST3K mocked, and he held no grudges as he hosted the 1994 Turkey Day Marathon, in which the episode featuring Zombie Nightmare had its broadcast premiere. Mamie Van Doren, who appeared in episode 112 Untamed Youth and episode 601 Girls Town. Robert Vaughn, star of episode 315 Teenage Caveman, which he called the worst movie ever made. And Beverly Garland, who had appeared in many MST3K featured Robert Corman films, also hosted at the marathon. Yes, Beverly Garland of The Beast with 1,000 Eyes and My Three Sons. Of all things, MST3K won a Peabody Award for producing an ingenious, eclectic series with references from everything to Proust to Gilligan's Island, Mystery Science Theater 3000 infuses superb, clever writing with wonderfully terrible B-grade movies. In 1994 and 1995, the show is nominated for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Writing for a variety or music program, but lost both times to Dennis Miller Live. How much writing is necessary on Dennis Miller Live. But anyway, every year from 1992 to 1997, it was also nominated for the Cable Ace Awards. And, yeah. I don't think I really am going to surprise anyone when I say that the show's influence is immense. Many obscure films have been made more visible to the public and have become part of the culture. Manos Hands of Fate would be one of those. There were 3 movies directed by Coleman Francis: Red Zone Cuba, The Skydivers, and The Beast of Yucca Flats, which made him, at the status of Ed Wood. Also brought to the limelight lackluster works by Burt I. Gordon, primarily giant monster B movies. And those of us who follow science fiction know who Burt I. Gordon is, but the average person probably doesn't. And then all those sort of Sandy Frank-ish, the source of all our pain. So anyway, there's been a lot of clones of MST3K. Cheap Seats is a sports version, really, that the MST3K cast actually appeared on. Basically, I'm not going to go through all of the various clones. You know them or you don't know them, and there's a reason you don't know them. The riffing style in MST3K also is heavily influential on DVD commentaries and those review videos you see here on YouTube quite so often. The DVDs for Ghostbusters and Men in Black used a similar format to Shadowrama, right? And so, anyway, there are also a lot of places that do public performances of riffing in the MST3K style. The fans, the MSTies, they call them, the MST3K fans, MSTies, or the MSTies, Usenet group rec.arts.tv.mst3k.misc and rec.arts.tv.mst3k.announce were established in the mid-90s for discussions and announcements about the show. There is a type of fan fiction called mistings, which fans would add humorous comments to other typically bad fan fiction works, and it was very popular in these groups. There was a website called Satellite News. Another fan site called the Annotated MSTie attempts to catalog and describe all the obscure pop culture references used in a given episode. A number of celebrities have expressed their deep love for the shows. One of the earliest was Frank Zappa, who called Best Brains and called MSTie 3K the funniest effing thing on TV, according to Trace Ballou. Zappa became a friend of the show, and following his death, episode 523 was dedicated to him. Other celebrity fans include Al Gore, Neil Patrick Harris, Penn Jillette, Patton Oswalt, I think, is a layup. I talked about riff tracks and Cinematic Titanic and the film crew. These are all projects featuring various formulations of the original cast for the most part, and the second cast too a little bit. So there are a lot of related projects or things that other people have appeared in. Cinematic Titanic had Trace Ballou and Weinstein and Conniff and Mary Jo Pehl. In 2015, Trace Ballou and Frank Conniff began to perform together as the Mads, riffing at live screenings across the USA. Many of their stops included 2 nights of movies with a separate riff writing class the morning of the second film. In 2000, most of the cast of the sci-fi era collaborated on a humor website, Timmy Big Hands, that closed a year later. In 2001, Mike Nelson, Patrick Bransing, Bill Corbett, Kevin Murphy, and Paul Chapin created The Adventures of Edward the Less, an animated parody of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which is funny. So, in 2010, Trace Ballou, Frank Conniff, Joel Hodgson, Mary Jo Pehl, Josh Weinstein, Beth McKeever, and Clive Robertson voiced characters for Dark Star, the interactive movie, a computer game created by J. Allen Williams. Trace Ballou and Joel Hodgson were featured in the Yahoo screen series Other Space in 2015, with Ballou voicing a robot companion of Hodgson's character, a burned-out space engineer. Other Space is fabulous. Fabulous. Series creator Paul Feig, a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, said he envisioned Hodgson and Ballou as their respective characters while writing them. There have been a number of reunions. I'm not going to get to it. In popular culture, Futurama featured silhouetted robots resembling Crow and Servo in the season 2 episode Raging Bender. The poster for the 1996 film can be seen in the 2005 comedy The 40-Year-Old Virgin and the 2017 horror comedy Happy Death Day. The 2004 direct-to-video Disney film The Lion King 1.5. Timon and Pumbaa are shown in silhouette, commenting on the movie shown before them in a style similar to that of the show. So there you go. There you go. I could go into more detail. I don't know that anyone's looking for that. And thus, that's all I have to tell you about Mystery Science Theater 3000. Let's see here. Terry Nee said, sorry, movie, 1959, Killer Shrews. Yes, I've seen the Killer Shrews. It's got a attractive blonde lady in it. Mr. Buddy Lee is laughing. Mitchell, according to Rumple Trenchcoat, is worth watching just to see Joel's exit alone. Yes, that's not only was Mitchell a great movie, but that's the transition. Joel exits and lands in Australia, and Mike, at the end of I think that show, the Mads are asking him if he'd like a job or something, and then next thing we know, he's up there. Buddy's laughing. Oh, look, it's Shaman Tard who's just... See, I'm not like you. I'll just ban you. You don't deserve to be in here. You've never done radio. You're never going to do radio, but you call yourself Radio Shaman. How's that work? Your shows are completely unprepared. You do nothing but use other people's content on the occasions when you can play the audio. I can't believe you tried to play the NFL and NBA, two notorious copyright enforcers. You have no problem stealing other people's content, copyrighted works. You know nothing about sports. Your summation of the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation proves that. That's what we need. This is what we need. This is what you must have said it 50 times. Incomplete pass. Well, I know that wasn't online, but he probably couldn't get a job at a sports station to save your life. Okay? You need to stay offline and get your personal situation under control. All right? 30-day chip. Wow. You also, last night, showed someone actually using drugs on your show. And the almost granular way you were describing it, I could tell you were reliving your experience as an addict. It was very clear to anyone watching. And why would you show someone abusing if you truly are in rehab? If you're truly in recovery, why would you show that to other people? Why? Because you're not right in the head. You've got enough problems as it is. If I'd have gone on 4 straight nights showing clips that didn't have any sound on them and commenting on them as if other people had heard them, almost like a homeless guy walking down the street talking to himself, I wouldn't be online. Laughing, your creepy laugh, it's your joke. You're a laughing stock. No one's in there to watch you because you're putting out bangers. They're watching the car wreck along the side of the road is what they're doing. Shoot. Let me see here. Let's see. Gotta love the good sports involved. Definitely. Rumble Trenchcoat says the cleaver part of Riff Tracks is that they could do any movie since they didn't need to secure rights. The listener had to get their own copy of the movie, then they synced it up with the audio of Rick. Definitely. Leon Kennedy says this is a long Tom Gulley episode. Yes, and we played your latest banging new track the night the spiders attacked at the beginning of the episode. Christian Slater was here. It was a big thing. And we're going to play it at the end, too. And I think it's really appropriate for this episode because it sounds like the title of a movie that Mystery Science Theater 3000 would riff on, the night the spiders attacked. Rumble Trenchcoat says, I don't want to assume, but if the night the spiders attacked was yours, Leon Kennedy, then home run. Leon said, of course it was mine. Yeah, it's a good one. Leon says, the night Tom Gulley attacked. Yeah. There are those nights. And that's another thing this guy does. He'll say, oh, so-and-so's mad at me. So-and-so's seething. So-and-so. Are you still on something that you think you can detect the emotions of people across the internet? Because nothing about you is going to get me worked up. Nothing. I'm mad. I'm mad that you're a fool. I don't know how that works. I really don't. Anyways, that's really all I got. I would love to know if everybody wants to put their favorite episode, if you can pick one, if not, put a couple of MST3K in yonder. I also am kind of partial to pod people, I do have to admit. I do have to admit, and I am definitely, without question, by the way, Arsenal tied today 1-1. Not very happy about it. Not very happy about it. We're still in first, but by the way, soccer, the most popular sport in the history of mankind on Earth, averages more per game than the NHL or the NBA. We have, at the last World Cup, the best player in the world playing in this country. Will be playing in the MLS Cup. Not popular? Let me just see something. Let me just see something for you. Real quick. This is not going to take a second. This is only going to take a second. Trust me, it'll only take a second. Won't take long at all. And then we're going to, read any comments, and then we're going to play The Night the Spiders attacked, again. Yes. Atlanta United averages 41,000 a game. Don't you know? 41,000 per match. I'm sure the Seattle Sounders average something similar to that. And this was a down season because of all the World Cup qualifiers. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? God, I hope so. Incidentally, if you believe that scoring is important in American football, look at the top 20, say, scorers in NFL history. The top 20. Top 20 scorers in NFL history. Take a look at those guys. What kind of style of kicking do they do? Most of them are former soccer players. Weren't good enough to play soccer, so they play football. Currently, the best kicker in the NFL is a guy that actually played in Major League Soccer, Brandon Aubrey. All right? So think about this. Before the soccer-style kick in American football, they kicked it straight on with their toe because they're thinking. Since that time, since a smart soccer player went, that's a dumb way to kick a ball, the percentage of made kicks has gone from about 40% to about 85%, and the distance of a kick has gone through the roof as well. Just saying, American football is a 1-hour game that takes 3 hours to play, that has only 11 minutes of actual sports competition in it. Yeah. Most of the time is spent getting up off the ground, walking 20 yards, getting in a circle, being re-instructed to collide with the pituitary case that you collided with on the last play, walking back up to the line, listening to the only smart guy on the field yelling at you for 10, 15 seconds. Then he snaps the ball. That snapping of the ball is when the actual athletic competition begins. 5 to 7 seconds if it's a long play. Later, the whistle blows and the sports is done for another little while. 1-hour game, 3 hours to play. Only 11 minutes of actual sports. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Leon Kennedy says, can't stick around, Tom. Have a good one, guys. Mwah, mwah. Also, I've not seen much MST3K, but Manos, The Hands of Fate is a good episode, but I'm pretty sure everyone will say that. A lot of people say that. That is true. Rumble Trenchcoat says, that was a great trip down MST3K memory lane. We've already talked about a few of my favorites, so I'll just talk in Future War here at the end, which is another great one. God, I love it. I love it. Anyways, I think that's probably all we're going to get here. Thanks to everybody for showing up. I so appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow with S&H Green Stamps. Tuesday, we will have, on this note for MST3K, our show will be about legendary exploitation and gimmick-ridden film director and producer William Castle will be our subject. And that's for Tuesday. Wednesday will be the Sunshine Skyway Bridge collapse. Thursday of next week will be the disappearance of Lauren Spirer. Very mysterious, still to this day. Still to this day. And with all that being said, I'm looking at that old clock on the wall. And it says, like the Reverend Al Green, it's time for me to get up on out of here. Gene1313 says, thanks for the Sunday show. Anytime. Maybe I'll just start doing them from now on. Why not? Terry Nee says, is that a baseball team? Is what a baseball team? You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. On our outro tonight, the latest Leon Kennedy creation, especially for Christian Slater, who was upset that one of the theme songs Leon created did not have any mention of spiders in it. However, most of them do. You have to listen closely, but most of them do. So with that in mind, especially for Hollywood star and frequent inhabitant of our chat room, Christian Slater, we now give you The Night the Spiders Attacked. And we say, till next time. We'll see you next time.
It was late, one even smooth and mellow and sweet. Tom Gulley on the airwaves laying down that beat. He heard a little rustle, tapping soft and discreet. Turned around and saw some spiders dancing on their feet. All their legs were shiny gold, and the rhythm pure heat. He thought, hold on baby, these little fellas groove kinda crazy, and the whole room lit like a disco dream. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked, but with disco hearts, baby, nothing got whacked. Skittering, jittering, never losing the tack. Tom Gulley smiling, feeling all the impact. Oh, honey, no one got sacked on the night. Oh, the night, the night, the night the spiders attacked. Christian Slater walks in with his Hollywood stride, leather jacket shimmering, grin open wide. He saw those tiny dancers moving side to side. Didn't take a minute for the man to join the ride. Every spider in the room kept the groove amplified. The lights flickered bright like a Motown stage. Silky harmonies floating like we'd turn a new page. Spiders tapping rhythm like a miniature band. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked, but with disco hearts, baby, nothing got whacked. Skittering, jittering, never losing the tack. Groove so smooth it bordered on abstract. Oh, honey, no one got sacked. Oh, the night, the night, the night the spiders attacked.
You know, I just asked in the chat room if anybody wants to hear this again. And, of course, there's an overwhelming response. And then I thought to myself, you know, it really doesn't matter if anybody does. I mean, it does matter. I care what you folks think. And I, of course, always strive to make you happy. But the larger point is, well, I want to hear it again, for crying out loud. This is for Christian Slater.
It was late, one even, smooth and mellow and sweet. Tom Gulley on the airwaves, laying down that beat. He heard a little rustle, tapping soft and discreet. Turned around and saw some spiders dancing on their feet. All their legs were shiny gold, and the rhythm pure heat. He thought, hold on baby, these little fellas groove kinda crazy, and the whole room lit like a disco dream. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked, but with disco hearts, baby, nothing got whacked. Skittering, jittering, never losing the tact. Tom Gulley smiling, feeling all the impact. Oh, honey, no one got sacked on the night. Oh, the night, the night, the night the spiders attacked. Christian Slater walks in with his Hollywood stride, leather jacket shimmering, grin open wide. He saw those tiny dancers moving side to side. Didn't take a minute for the man to join the ride. Every spider in the room kept the groove amplified. The lights flickered bright like a Motown stage. Silky harmonies floating like we'd turn a new page. Spiders tapping rhythm like a miniature band. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked, but with disco hearts, baby, nothing got whacked. Skittering, jittering, never losing the tact. Groove so smooth it bordered on abstract. Oh, honey, no one got sacked. Oh, the night, the night, the night the spiders attacked. Oh, that was the night the spiders attacked. Silver legs shimmering in every